The hospital air was cold and still, carrying with it the sterile scent of antiseptic and something softer, something warmer, like fresh cotton and newborn skin. Bertie sat propped on thin hospital pillows, her back aching, her arms trembling as they cradled the tiny bundle swaddled in blue. The world had gone quiet outside the walls of this room. No nurses bustled in. No voices rang down the corridor. For a moment, it was just her and him. Joel. His name had come to her the night before, when contractions had racked her body and panic gripped her chest. She had whispered it through clenched teeth between cries of pain. Joel, she'd breathed. Joel. And now he was here, alive, breathing, warm, real. Bertie ran her finger along his cheek, barely brushing it. His skin was like silk, impossibly soft. His eyes, when they fluttered open, were wide and dark, curious, too new to understand what was happening, too innocent to know he was being given up. Bertie wanted to run. She wanted to scream, to clutch him to her chest and shout, "No, I've changed my mind." But she didn't. She was 17. Her parents had made it clear. There was no room for a baby in their future. Her future. The decision had been made long before the first push. The adoptive couple was already in the waiting room. They had a nice house, a dog, a backyard. She had nothing to offer but a love that wasn't enough to feed or clothe him. So she kissed his forehead, breathing him in, and whispered, "I'm sorry. I love you. I'll always love you." When the nurse came in with gentle hands and professional sympathy, Bertie's arms refused to move at first. Then, with a broken sob, she surrendered him. The door closed behind them. And just like that, he was gone. The years didn't erase him. Bertie tried to forget, but she couldn't. Not really. She went to college, moved to New York, started working in fashion. Her hands learned to sketch, to stitch, to build something beautiful out of fabric and thread. But the ache stayed. It visited at night in the hush of her apartment when the world slept and her thoughts were loud. Every birthday, she lit a candle and said his name. Joel. She never told her boyfriends. They wouldn't understand. They'd see it as baggage. But to Bertie, he was never a burden. He was the shadow in her life, the hole that success couldn't fill. She dated. She laughed. She smiled in photos, but nothing ever felt whole. Sometimes she imagined bumping into him by chance, on a subway, in a bookstore. She'd recognize him instantly. He'd be tall, maybe. Hands in his pockets, maybe a crooked smile. She'd call his name. He'd turn. Their eyes would meet. He'd know. But that moment never came. When she turned 35, something cracked. She couldn't take the wondering anymore. Was he safe? Was he happy? Was he angry at her? She hired a private investigator. It was expensive and more complicated than she imagined. Closed adoptions were iron doors, records sealed, agencies unhelpful. But Bertie had money now, and persistence. She spent nights combing old hospital records, following digital footprints, praying. Weeks passed, then months. Then, finally, a name, a city, a face, Joel. She took the train to Philadelphia the next morning. The sun was just rising when she arrived, clutching the PI's report like it was sacred. He was a student at Temple, liked poetry, played basketball, tall, brown eyes. Her fingers trembled as she scrolled through the photo again. It was him, her baby boy, now a young man. She found the cafe where he worked part-time, watched him through the window, wiping down tables, his earbuds in, focused. She hesitated for almost an hour before walking in. "Hi," she said, her voice a thread. He looked up. "Can I help you?" She opened her mouth then closed it. Her throat burned. I'm Bertie." "Okay," he said slowly. "I'm your biological mother." The world seemed to tilt. Joel stared at her, frowning like he'd misheard. He blinked. "What?" "I gave birth to you. 18 years ago. I've been trying to find you." Silence. He set the rag down, leaned back, arms crossed. "Why?" "Because I never forgot you," she said. "Not for a single day." He looked away, his jaw tightening. You gave me up. I did, she said softly, and I hated myself for it. But I had nothing back then. I thought someone else could give you more. His voice was quiet, sharp. They did. I have a good life. She nodded quickly. I don't want to take anything from you. I wanted to know if you're okay. That's all. Joel stood there, staring at her like she was a puzzle he didn't want to solve. I need time, he said finally. Take all the time you need, Bertie whispered. I'm not going anywhere. Days passed before Joel reached out. A simple text. Coffee? Bertie's hands shook as she typed back. Yes, anytime. They met at a quiet place near campus. Joel wore a hoodie. Bertie wore too much makeup to hide the dark circles under her eyes. He was guarded. Careful. I looked you up, he said. Oh? She smiled nervously. You're successful. Designer, magazines, a lot of pictures. I've worked hard, she said, but none of it matters if I can't know you. Joel sipped his coffee. I'm not angry, just confused. I grew up always wondering who you were, why you didn't want me. Bertie's heart shattered again. I wanted you more than anything, but I was scared, alone. I thought I was doing the right thing. Joel nodded. My adoptive parents, they're amazing, but I still had questions. You deserve answers, Bertie said. They began to talk, slowly, carefully, like walking across a frozen lake, unsure of where it might crack. Each meeting grew easier. They laughed. She learned about his love of music. He discovered she hated pickles. They shared stories, wounds, hopes. One afternoon, he asked to see photos of when she was pregnant. I only have one, she said. I hid my pregnancy, but I kept this. She pulled out a faded picture. Bertie, 17, eyes wide with fear and love. Joel stared at it for a long time. That's me in there, he whispered. Yes, she said, tears slipping down her cheeks. Joel reached for her hand. And just like that, he was back. Bertie didn't try to force anything. She followed his lead. She let him come to her. He invited her to a poetry reading on campus, one where he performed a piece titled Roots. She cried quietly in the back row, her heart bursting with pride. Later, he said, I wrote it before I met you, but now it means something different. Me too, Bertie said. Everything means something different now. They began seeing each other weekly. Coffee, walks in the park, dinners. She met his adoptive parents, and though it was awkward at first, there was a gentle understanding among them. Bertie didn't try to replace anyone. She was just there. A piece of his puzzle that had finally clicked into place. On his 19th birthday, Joel invited her to a small celebration. Bertie brought a gift, a leather-bound journal and a photo of her holding him in the hospital, carefully restored and framed. Joel stared at the image for a long time, then hugged her tightly. Thank you, he said, for coming back. Bertie held him close, and for the first time in 19 years, the silence inside her was gone. The ache was still there, but it had changed. It had shape now. Color. It had a name. Joel. And he was hers again, in the way that mattered most.